First of all, thank you so much. UMC has been very generous to Consecutive Community Colleges. We work with the public schools to try and advance STEM agenda in schools. I guess what I'd love to know is, how do we put our fingers on the pulse of what you need now and in the future to ensure that EMC and companies such as yours can continue to flourish?
How do you
How do we keep our fingers?
you as educators?
Yeah, how do we keep our fingers on the pulse of where you're going? We want to be able to graduate people who are ready when you need them, how you need them. So any advice you can give us?
Data scientists. If you don't have, if you're not preparing people for that, you're not preparing them for the future right now. There is going to be a huge wave of that coming forward. Yeah, I forgot, I neglected to mention, by the way, that I was an English major. Any English majors? There we go. I learned business after, but I was, and one of the things I did at UMC when I was CFO was I created the finance training program, and what I wanted to do was hire people like me, and that probably sounds a little bit, arrogant or something, but I wanted to hire, kids coming out of school who weren't, that knew a lot about a lot of different things, but they may not know finance. I said I can teach them finance. Finance is a vocation. You can teach them that, but we hired young, smart, very motivated people who were well educated. I mean, being able to write. In my career, being able to write, I was an English major, being able to write was instrumental in my advancement as an accountant, believe it or not. And I learned to write here. That's why I became an English major, because I knew I was good in math, I knew I was good in analytical, but I wasn't as good at writing. And so, developing people who are well-rounded, who are not just focused on what's happening in the stock market today, who can have a conversation with anybody about anything. These are the attributes. This is what a liberal arts education is all about. I'm a huge believer in liberal arts education. But, people coming out of any school, to make sure that it's just not on one side and one, there's a lot of vocations out there, but being educated is a whole different mindset. And I so firmly believe in that. Well, you already asked a question. Any other questions out there? All right, you're allowed. None of the kids in the back row? Oh, you got a young man right here.
First, I want to thank you for coming today. My question is, how does EMC maintain a balance between mitigating risk and creating conservative spending, while also working to accelerate growth in such a volatile?
So that's another great question. And before I answer that question, I'm going to say, you heard it up here tonight that about 8 or 10 people told me Winston Churchill spoke here. All right? So expectations were very high. And I was sitting there, and every time someone tells me, I said, oh my God, I've only got one little note card. You gotta love risk. You gotta love risk. Now, you gotta be smart about risk, but you have to love it. Because with no risk, there's no reward. And so you've got to be, I remember Joe and I were over in Davos. This is got to be 3 years ago, it's got to be beginning of 2008. And there's a very famous economist named Nouriel Roubini. And he's called Dr. Doom. He's a very interesting guy. He's a professor at NYU. And he's sitting up on the stage and he's talking about the financial world coming to an end, basically. And Joe looks at me and says, Bill, we got to go home and get skinny. And we came back and we didn't start, we stopped hiring. Because it's much easier to stop hiring than to ask somebody to leave. And believe me, I've had to ask a lot of people to leave over the years, and it's never a good day. So you got to be, you got to love risk, but you got to be very tempered in your expense. You always got to spend less than your revenue growth. All right, and so that's called leverage. You got to create leverage, operational leverage in your business. And so you have to be very aware of what's happening in the market. We have to be aware of not just what's happening in the technology side of the market, but what's happening in the industry side, what's happening in the financial segment. Are people going to stop buying? Are they going to get too conservative? Because we never want to be in the position of having to let people go. And when we get in that position, what's really interesting? So in 2000, we came back, we got skinny in 2008, but in 2009 we had to look at it ourselves and say, okay, we have to get even skinnier. And we talked about it. Communication is incredibly important. And communication with your employees. And so, we opened up the phone lines. And what the number one suggestion from employees was cut my pay. Keep my friend's job, but cut my pay. And that was really an incredibly, again, moving experience. The management team, we all took big double-digit cuts in our pay. The whole entire organization worldwide, in many countries where you didn't have to do it. There's countries around the world that have different labor laws where you just can't cut pay, capriciously. Not that we cut it capriciously, but we could mandate it. But everyone said, listen, I'd rather make less money so that my brother has a job or my sister has a job than while the tough guy going is going. And so we did that. And so, again, we were very strict on our spending controls. Because I've been there when we spent, remember when we got to 24,500 people, we saw so much growth that we couldn't spend to keep up with it, and then we got caught. So experience is a great teacher. Tommy? Not Winston Churchill, but...
It's such an honor to have someone with such an amazing global perspective come and speak to us. I want to touch on two things that Bill spoke about. One is he talked about people skills. He said, know that you're dealing with people and their lives. EMC has a great reputation for that. And I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to give you a story about it on a very personal level. And it's my kid's sister, who graduated from here in 1987, who's worked at EMC almost since she graduated. But she doesn't report directly to Bill, but indirectly. She had a very serious bout with uterine cancer. We almost lost her. Christine did not want to give up working. And she loved her job and she loved her division. She was in charge of a significant sales force. Bill called her into his office and he said, you should be proud of the team that you have assembled. They can do the job. You get better. Take the time off. Your job will be here when you get back. It allowed her to go through the brutal chemotherapy and other treatment, radiation treatments, and come back. And she loves that company and loves Bill Teuber. So it's a great example of EMC, and I've seen that in many other examples of EMC. Bill, you taught us a lot. I now know more about big data, cloud storage, security.